going for the number or rushing a number and just taking a number and leaving is like in football, kicking a field goal on first down. If you haven't qualified the girl, the only reason you're taking a number is because she was hot, which makes the whole thing kind of cheesy and predictable. It makes you playerish. It makes it less special. Mm-hmm. If she actually won you over, if she actually convinced you in some way, now the phone number makes sense, and now the phone number has real value. A number versus an instant date, a number is 30% as good as an instant date if you have good text game. Good overall, kind of like rushed after the number, and like she could have stayed longer. You could have gotten to know her better. I don't know. It doesn't seem like she's doing anything particularly urgent right now, so there's no reason you couldn't have done more with it, either in terms of an instant date or in terms of qualifying a bit more to getting to know her a little bit more, right? So it just felt a little rushed. You also asked for the number probably too early. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got it, but still, like you're a fucking cool guy, man. Like, you don't need to be rushing the number, right? The longer she spends in your presence, the more she gets to know you, the more she's gonna like you. Mm-hmm. So if you ask for a number after, I don't know, it was like a minute and a half or something like that, there is a chance you'll get it because you're a cool guy. But if you ask for it after 10 minutes, there's a better chance you'll get it. So why not spend that extra time? I'm going to give you these numbers not because I want you to treat them as gospel, but because there's a concept in them, okay? So guys often ask me, like, what's your success rate? You know, how often do you get whatever, right? And so these numbers can vary widely depending on the circumstance, right? But I would say that my odds in a reasonable, approachable situation, not like a crazy, ridiculous AMOG situation or girls running or riding a horse or some shit, you know what I mean? Like a girl in a relatively static situation where she's somewhat approachable. I'm gonna get a phone number or better, let's say 85% of the time, like very high, okay? Yeah. That's gonna include some instant dates, some pulls and closes, mostly not, but mostly numbers, but some of those. And this can include some girls where the numbers are like very weak because, for example, they have a boyfriend and I still manage to get a number, right? Because if it's 85%, I'm clearly getting numbers from girls with boyfriends because a lot of girls have them, right? So the point is, some of those numbers are weak, they're whatever. But I'm getting a number or better 85%, right? So it's pretty high. In terms of the numbers that are not immediate closes, because if I pull the girl and close the girl, that's a different thing, that's already whatever. But the numbers that are not closes that day, I'm gonna get them out on a date, maybe 30%, right? Massive drop off. And again, some of these girls, a lot of these girls have boyfriends or they were not like, you know what, they don't normally give their numbers and things like that. But the drop off there is huge, right? 70% lost, okay? If I get the girl on a date, I'm gonna close it like upwards of 90%. Okay, whether it be same, oftentimes on the first date, but definitely if they go multiple dates, whatever. I'm going to close that very, very often, okay? So the biggest drop-off is on the number segment, right? Now, the reason I tell you that is not because I want you guys to compare to my numbers or aspire to those things or that even your numbers will look like mine. And in fact, your numbers could be wildly different. A lot of times beginners, their conversion on numbers is extremely high, because they're only getting numbers when the girl already fell in love with them, right? So your numbers may look different, but the point is this. If my in-person segments are 85 and 90% closes, and my phone number conversion is 30%, that means that if going for an instant date lost me the number half the time and got the instant date half the time, it would still be a dramatic improvement in my overall success rate. And that's not going to be the case. Because most of the time going for the instant date, even if it fails, you're still going to get the number just as well as you would have without going for it. So it's almost risk-free. It has such huge upside. There's like almost no reason not to go for it because the number fundamentally isn't worth that much, right? I know like walking away with a number feels good, and you guys should, by the way. Where you guys are at, you guys should walk away with numbers and feel good about it. For sure you should. And it is a win, and it is part of a very robust strategy that can like solve your dating life for you. So numbers are great. But a number versus an instant date, a number is 30% as good as an instant date if you have good text game. Number one, a lot of your numbers are going to be weak because you're getting them too fast. So your numbers with more qualification, more time spent will be more solid, and your text results will be better. Number two, if your text game gets better, your results will be better. But number three, you should be going for instant dates because an instant date is at least 3 times as good as a number. That's a pretty safe estimate. It's probably like 5 times as good or something like that, okay? So if 4 out of 5 times you lost the set by going for the instant date and you got it 1 time in 5, that's actually a winning statistic. And in reality, it's never going to be like that. You're not going to lose a set by going for an instant date. Hardly ever. You'll still be able to just fall back to the number.
Anyways.
Yeah. Well, you'll still be able to fall back to the number when it fails almost always. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the point is, going for an instant date in any reasonable circumstance is almost always the right move. Yeah. And then settling for a number. Yeah. I gave you this metaphor yesterday. I'll give it to you guys, which is I think it's a very good metaphor for it. Is like you guys obviously know how football works, right? Yeah. I have to ask this because I have European clients who don't know sometimes, right? But going for the number, or rushing a number and just taking a number and leaving, is like in football kicking a field goal on first down.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You just don't fucking do it. You can play safe. You can make sure you keep the field goal in hand, but you go for it. You go for the touchdown. You go for progression up the field, that kind of stuff, right? Because why wouldn't you? You have free chances. Keep in your mind the idea of like the character arc of a romantic comedy. Right? We don't like each other. We meet randomly and it's spontaneous. We're not so sure about each other. We win each other over. We decide we like each other. We close. Right? You're doing the meeting spontaneously. You're doing kind of just we like each other as friends without any tension there. But there's not enough of a... nobody's jumped over a high enough bar to really justify strong commitment yet. Right, you want to go through that plotline process. You want some legitimate banter. You want some legitimate tension over whether it's going to work out, and you want a resolution. If you do that, then you're going to have a really solid good set. And actually, even in the 1 minute set that I showed you guys, all of those pieces existed in 1 minute. If you haven't qualified the girl, the only reason you're taking a number is because she was hot, which makes the whole thing kind of cheesy and predictable. It makes you playerish. It makes it less special. Mm-hmm. If she actually won you over, if she actually convinced you in some way, now the phone number makes sense, and now the phone number has real value. Make sense? Yeah. Now, I'm not saying you can't get solid numbers without that. You absolutely can. Right. But that is the most critical piece from a technical perspective that determines whether the number will be solid or not, was their qualification. Mm-hmm. So even if I'm doing a rush number, let's say like I started talking to you, I say, hey, excuse me, you look very cute, and you're like, well, thank you, but I'm in a rush. Let's say that's the setup to this point and I want to close. That really sucks. I wish we had more time to talk to each other. Actually, tell me one thing. Question, answer. Okay, you know what? That's a pretty good answer. Yeah, I guess I can take your number. Right, does that make sense? But it seems justified. It seems like we actually had an interaction. It seems like there was a process by which you won me over, at least in some small way. It makes it so much more real. And the way I just did it there is like a 30-second interaction. Okay? Yeah, but that qualification, or at least the illusion of qualification, even if you didn't ask her a question, get her to jump through a hoop, even if you just said, you know what, you're actually surprisingly fun to talk to. I shouldn't do this, but what's your number? Right? If you just did that, you spoke into existence the idea that a qualification existed, even if it never did. Yeah. Right? But you want to have that feel to it. The way that you guys are doing game, you're creating all these like points of friction that are getting in your own way and making it not just happen. Right? Game should just happen. The way that the experience of good game should feel to the girl is like it's like you're at the top of a slide, and it's like a very slippery grease slide, and you're like, what was that? Whoop, getting fucked. Dude, the grease slide concept comes up, or the idea of like removing friction occurs at so many points in the interaction, right? So on the open, having a false time constraint, right? Removing the high barrier to starting a conversation is greasing the slide. Similarly, it's false time constraint, but you go for an instant date. I can only, let's go for a quick coffee. Not, I have an hour, let's go for a coffee, right? Those kind of things. Things like, what's your number instead of, can I have your number? That kind of stuff greases the slide. Things like, when you take a girl home, instead of saying, let's go back to my place, being like, yeah, we can go to one more place, right? Not making it as big of a deal, not making it as scary of a move, those kind of things. Yeah. When you ask a girl out, instead of saying, let's go on a date, you say, yeah, let's hang out, or let's meet up, right? Mm-hmm. Not making it as serious is more of a grease slide. You're taking some of the responsibility off of them. If they're going somewhere, walking with them to where they're going and making that the instant date instead of forcing them on the instant date you had planned. Like, let's say your plan was to take them for coffee and they say they're walking to the beach. Instead of being like, why don't we not go to the beach and go get coffee? Be like, you know what, I could go to the beach with you. And you just make that your instant date. So like going with the flow of the interaction is the grease slide. So all these little like moves that make it less of an overt decision or make it less of a big deal, make it more, it just happened. These all like add up over the course of the interaction. Yeah.